Well, 3 questions for you. First of all, what is it? How do you say it? And why I think you need it. Well, welcome back to the Small Scape. Today I am talking about another plant. This one's a good one. I'm going to start with actually a topic that I don't normally have to start with, and that is, how do you say it? You may have differences of opinion, like beta. You could say Subwassertang, 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 a whole bunch of different variations. But we are in America here, so it does generally go by Subwassertang. I believe that's the most common pronunciation of it, although I am half German, I'm going to warn you, and I did take 4 years of German in high school 150 years ago. So the appropriate pronunciation would be, if you care, Subwassertang. Subwassertang. Sounds really cool when you say it like that, but for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call it Subwassertang, just because I'm in Chicago. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, what is it? Well, this is actually a relatively new plant. It's only been around in the aquarium world for, I think, in the early 00s, so less than 20 years. First they thought it was a moss, then they called it a liverwort. Now, I think they're pretty much intent on calling it a fern. That's right, it doesn't look like a fern to me either, but certain properties of it makes it a fern. So, we're talking about Subwassertang, the fern. And, fun fact, Subwassertang, well, the Süßwasser, that is fresh water, and the tang, or tang, means seaweed. So you have freshwater seaweed, which that makes a whole lot more sense to me because it does kind of look like a seaweed. It looks like some sushi seaweed that's wet. It's got a very unique appearance. It's taken me a long time to warm up to it personally, but now I'm hooked. Although I get hooked on a lot of aquarium plants if you haven't noticed that. So, I have 5 reasons why I think you need this plant. The first one is, I think we should talk about the water parameters. First of all, it really does kind of like a cooler water temperature. 68 to 75 degrees I think is very, very safe to say, but it is also known to do very well in cold water outside. I have not yet tried that. I'm tempted when the weather gets a little cooler to chuck some out into the pond and actually see how it does. But with that said, the pH likes from 6 to 8, somewhere in there. And then also the water hardness 0 to 8. So definitely likes the softer water. Keep in mind, I do, for a couple of these parameters, I am a little outside at the end of these parameters, but I think that really just means that it won't necessarily melt. It may, depending how far outside of the parameters you are, but it also just may not grow as fast, or it might not be as brilliant green. At least that's what's happened in my experience. But I don't generally get it to have massive growth for it, so it's okay for me. Number 2, how do you maintain this plant? It's a big plus for me because you don't have to do a whole lot. It really likes low to medium light, which is a big bonus for me because I don't run any really high light. I also don't run CO2. It does not require CO2, and it also doesn't require fertilization. So I don't even give it much of any. And if you do give it first, they definitely suggest very low. Number 3, how do you plant it and how do you propagate it? Well, planting couldn't be any easier. I mean, it's probably even easier than my absolute favorite plant, Anubias. And you can tie it down, you can float it. What it'll do, it doesn't have a rhizome, it doesn't have roots. It's got what are called rhizoids, which are kind of like, I think of them like little fingers. So once they find something they want to attach to, that's what they'll do. So if you float it, maybe by some wood or by a rock, it will probably attach itself at some point. If you'd like, you can tie it with string, just very lightly. I wouldn't tie it really tight. And then it'll kind of clamp on there, and that's how it'll build up. And then how do you propagate it? Couldn't be any easier. It's like any other moss. You just snip it. You just cut it and move it somewhere else or spread it around. A lot of people do like to use it as a carpeting plant. I've never really done it that way, but I don't think I've really had that quantity to let it kind of fill in the bottom of the tank, but it is a possibility. Number 4, how does it look? Well, like I said, I had to warm up to it because it does look a little bit different. It looks kind of, it's kind of like jelly sort of thing. It looks like ribbons. If you've ever, if you're crafty at all, if you've ever made like a little, like, I don't know what it's called, like a, you know, the little twisty thing like out of paper, and it like hangs down a like coil. You cut a circle and then you make little circles like smaller and smaller, and then you stop and then you spread it out. That's kind of like what it looks like to me. I don't know. It's basically like a ribbon of jelly stuff, and then at the end it kind of makes little curlicues, and then as it grows and gets happy in its new little home, then it just kind of starts growing up towards the top of the tank. Looks really cool. Number 5, the last one, how do you use it? Well, you can use it, and this is a common way you see it, and it looks really cool when you do this. Like if you wanted to tie it to a rock or some wood, just leave it there for a while, it will start to mound, and it kind of makes like a little round mound. It looks really cool, especially the little kind of curly parts that come up towards the top. Resembles kind of a mound of moss. But I don't think I mentioned this. If you have any problems growing like Java mosses and other little mosses, if they don't seem to like your water, definitely try Subwassertang, because it may very possibly do better for you. I've heard that said a number of times. Also, a great use for this is immersed. So if you have like a paludarium or a vivarium, you could have it kind of at the water's edge, and I understand that it really does kind of like it there. I have not specifically tried it. There are some scapes I've seen that look really sweet like this. I haven't tried it yet, but I do think a lot of people do kind of use it on the water border. And I would say the number 1 use for Subwassertang is for shrimp. This has, it's way better than moss, as good as moss is for shrimp, because it gives it lots of, gives all the little shrimp places to hide and places to hang out and places to, you know, snack on and all that. It has a way bigger surface area than the fine little strings of moss. So really great to give them some nice little cozy spaces. And how I've used it most recently is in one of my 4 tanks. Tank number 4, I did actually do the wedge method. I just wedged it underneath some spider wood, between a piece of Malaysian driftwood and spider wood, kind of like a big blob of it, and I think it looks really cool like that. So lots of different options. I think it is a plant that you should try if you haven't. Highly recommend it. It's a totally different kind of texture and look to any other plants. And if you have tried it before, let me know. How did it work out for you? Did you like it? Did it do well? Did it not? And how fast did it grow for you? I'm very curious about that. So hope you liked the video, and I will see you later.